For the first time in 30 years, basically since the end of apartheid, the African National Congress, the party of Nelson Mandela, has lost its majority. This is a massive, seismic shift in South Africa's political world, and it's forcing the country into a brand new, uncharted era of coalition government. So let's break down what this all means and, just as importantly, why it's happening right now.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the historic power shift that got us here. Then we'll dive into how this new government was actually put together. After that, we'll get into the fragile balancing act they're facing. And finally, we'll look ahead to South Africa's next chapter.
All right, first up, let's really get a handle on the sheer scale of this political earthquake. I mean, this wasn't just some minor dip in the polls for the ANC. It was a fundamental reshaping of the entire power structure.
And this is the number that changed everything. Just 40.2%. For the first time in 3 decades of democracy, that meant the ANC could no longer govern the country all by itself.
And to really put that into perspective, just look at the drop. We're talking about a fall of over 17 percentage points in just 5 years. That is a stunning loss of support and a really clear message from voters.
So what was behind this massive voter exodus? Well, it really wasn't one single thing. It was this perfect storm of deep, persistent frustrations, an unemployment rate that's soaring over 30%, those crippling, constant power cuts they call load shedding, endless corruption scandals, and just a general feeling that public services were falling apart. People just felt the party wasn't delivering anymore.
So, with no clear winner, the country's political leaders had to do something they've never really had to do before on this scale. They had to forge a totally new path and figure out how to govern together.
And the solution they came up with was something called a Government of National Unity, or a GNU. Now, this isn't just a simple two-party deal. It's basically a broad invitation for multiple parties, even long-standing rivals, to come together and share power, all for the sake of keeping the country stable.
And the result is a totally new power structure in Parliament. You've got the ANC, which is still the biggest piece of the pie, but now it's partnered up with its main historic opposition, the pro-business Democratic Alliance. And then you've got the IFP, the PA, and a few other smaller parties all in the mix.
And get this isn't some weak, fragile minority government. When you add them all up, the parties in this GNU command a staggering 72% of the seats in Parliament. I mean, on paper, that is an incredibly strong supermajority.
And it seems like this move actually has the public's backing. Polls are showing that nearly 3/4 of South Africans are on board with the idea of coalition governments. A lot of people believe that this kind of power sharing will bring more accountability than just having one party in charge for decades.
But this is where it gets really complicated, because forging an alliance with your fiercest political opponents, well, that creates a very, very delicate and potentially explosive situation. I mean, just look at the two main partners here. The ANC has built its platform on policies like Black economic empowerment that's aimed at fixing historic racial inequality and a new national health insurance plan for universal health care. The DA, on the other hand, fundamentally opposes both of those huge policies. Trying to find common ground there is going to be a monumental task.
And listen, this isn't just some theoretical problem. South Africa has already seen how this can play out at the local level. Coalition-run cities like Johannesburg have been just plagued by instability, constant infighting, and power struggles. It's kind of like a cautionary tale for this new national experiment.
And to add another layer of pressure, you've got these powerful parties on the outside of the coalition looking in. The brand new MK Party and the Economic Freedom Fighters, the EFF, they both grabbed a huge chunk of the former ANC vote. So now they're sitting there as this very loud opposition, just waiting to capitalize on any cracks that start to appear in this unity government.
So with all these moving parts, all this tension and potential, what does this new chapter really mean for South Africa's future?
Well, President Cyril Ramaphosa is essentially betting his entire political legacy on this coalition. He's framing this partnership with the pro-business DA as a pragmatic, necessary move to stabilize the country's economy and, crucially, to reassure international investors who get really nervous about instability.
So ultimately, South Africa is standing at a major crossroads. The risks are huge, right? You could have a government that's just frozen by policy disagreements, constant infighting, and maybe even collapse. But the opportunity is equally profound. This could be a chance for more accountability, for real power sharing, and for a government that actually represents a much broader spectrum of its people.
And this entire historic experiment
really leaves South Africa and all of us watching from the outside with one critical question. Is this the dawn of a more democratic, stable, and responsive government, or is it just the beginning of an era defined by political fragility? The answer to that is going to shape the nation's future for decades to come.